Okay, we're going to start this off with some equation solving with three answers because we have x to the third. And I have x to the third, x second, and x. Okay, so I've got those three types of things, so we have to do our factoring. So now I make sure I have my zero, which I do, and I count the number of terms. Okay, so there's four. So remember how to do grouping and DOPS. Okay, difference of perfect squares. Okay, so the grouping parentheses go as follows. You make a parentheses plus another parentheses with spaces out, and then a space parentheses. Okay, so I'm going to put 1x, and then DOPS means I'll have 2 with plus and minus. Okay, so first I go 1x to the power of 3 minus 6x to the power of 2, and then I make that 4 plus negative. So that's negative 4x plus 24. Okay, now I do have a negative in front. No, you got x on both. A second power would be your low. Okay, and then 1 and 6 is just going to give you a GCF of 1. Now you can put the 1 down there, but it's really not necessary. Okay, I have a negative in front of the 4, both of them. And then you go to your GCF calculator and you enter in 4 and 24, and it's going to tell you that it's 4, so that means you need to divide by 4. Okay, so I'm dividing by the factor of x squared, so x squared is factored out, and here I'm dividing by the factor of negative 4. Negative 4 is factored out. Okay, so I have the 1 not being divided by anything. X third, x second would be x, and then minus 6, and then these cancel. And this is going to be the same thing, 1x plus negative 6, which all it means minus 6. And since I got 1x minus 6 in both of these, I pull the whole factor of 1x minus 6 out. And we cross those out. And I have x to the second and negative 4. Okay, by the way, this is your F1 factor right there, the 1x minus 6. But this wouldn't be a factor because it's not factored completely because it's a DOPS, because we know we have 2 times 2, and x to the second power is x times itself. So I've got x, and then 2 and 2. And that is my F2 and my F3. Okay, so F1, 1x minus 6 is 0. X plus 2 is 0, and x minus 2 is 0. So I add 6 to both sides. 0 plus 6 is 6. Minus 2, you get negative 2, and then the other one's going to be 2. Okay, next problem has two answers, 1, 2. And I have the x to the second, and there's also an x to the first, so we have to use our factoring procedure. So we have the 0 there, and there's 3 terms this time, so only 3. So GCF and the T-chart. GCF, you have a negative in front? No. Do you have x on everything? No. 3, 5, and 3 is going to give you positive 1, so nothing you can do about that. Okay, so I take A times C, so positive 3 times negative 3. Gives me negative 9. Difference of 5. 9 minus 1 isn't 5. 9 divided by 2 is a decimal. And then 9 divided by 3 is 3. Well, 3 minus 3 is 0. So there's basically no way I can get to 5. So I write fail. And I'm going to use my SON, the quadratic formula. So plus minus. So opposite of B. So negative 5. Plus or minus the square root, and then this first parentheses, this second, you always put minus. That's part of the formula because it's b squared minus 4ac. So 4a and c. So b is positive 5, and then I always put a 4 here. That's part of the formula. Then a is 3, and c is negative 3. Okay, now on bottom I've got 2 and whatever a is, so a is 3. Okay, so I've got negative 5, I've got the big square root, and I got 2 times 3. Okay. So I go plus minus, and I know I got -5 in front of there, and then 2 times 3 is 6. Now again, you can enter the whole square root on the calculator. You go second, and then x to the second, so square root. Now you got to put 2 parentheses to begin with. So I have 5, I close that parentheses, and then raise it to the second power. And then minus, okay, and then parentheses 4, parentheses 3, and parentheses -3, and I get 7.81. Okay, it saves me some time with that. Okay, so -5 plus 7.81 equals, and then divide by 6, I get 0.47. Okay, and then -5 minus 7.81 equals, and then divide by 6 is -2.14. Okay, and then the back side. Now you have parentheses. So, by the way, this would have 2 answers, but this one here would only have 1. Now, if the second power is there, you can't use the rainbows. Now, if it's not there, you can. But if it's there, you can't. You have to use your q variable, and then you'll have to bring in the x plus 3 later after you solve for q. So q is going to have a 5 in front of it. It's going to be to the power of 2. It's going to equal 30. Okay, so then I need to divide out the 5. Okay, so 30 divided by 5 is 6. Now, if it's q to the second, to find the actual q, you got to square root both sides. Okay, find the square root of 6. Okay, so I find the square root of 6, and that's going to be 2.45. But you got to remember, when you square it, it could be positive or negative. So I put 2.45 and -2.45. And then I bring in the x plus 3 that was there. So minus 3. 2.45 minus 3 is -0.55. So there's your first answer. And then I minus 3, minus 3. -2.45 minus 3 is -5.45. Okay, and then with the rainbows, it's really easy. You have 3x plus 6, because 3 times 2 equals 30. And then I just get my x alone. I'm not going to square root on this because there's no second power. So 3x equals 24. Divide by 3. 24 divided by 8. 3 is 8. Okay, boom goes the dynamite.